Right, welcome to another episode from the Chart Reader. So we'll probably look at four on this one today. Got to start with BBAI. We have been stalking this stock for so long, and it finally did what we were hoping it does. Right. So I'm a big fan of when the technicals do their thing, and my goodness, a candle like this just screams technicals doing their thing. You know what I mean? So excited about this one for sure. Soundhound, a little annoying. I think that's an easy thing to say, but I think the potential is there, especially seeing what BBAI just did, right? So when there's a lot of moving averages, it's hard to get over them, especially when you've got a cluster of the two toughest ones right there, right? But you just saw BBAI, once it got over the blue line, the last of the five, it took off, right? That's basically what I'm seeing on SoundHound. It's the last blue line above all five. If you can get over that thing, it should take off to probably about there, and I'll talk about that shortly, right? So BBAI and SoundHound are going to be the first ones. INTC, Intel, is actually looking very interesting here, all right? So just like we saw with BBAI, this thing is trying and trying and trying and trying to get over all five moving averages. Today's a good candle, it for sure is. I think we need just a little bit more, and I'm definitely liking what I'm seeing down here on the lower indicators, right? So we don't want to fall into the cluster. The goal is confirm and let's go, right? So that's what we're going to be looking for here. And then what was the last one I wanted to cover? Oh yeah, it was SOFI. Up. Nope. Sometimes pudgy fingers bring good tickers. Not that one right there. So SOFI. Can you see the theme of this video here, right? Once it got over the blue line, the last of the five, right? The other ones were down there, and it was trying and trying and trying and trying, and then once it did, the technicals did the rest, right? So that's what we're looking for here, and I think the best thing about what's going on right now, right? So NASDAQ over all moving averages, and arguably the nicest candle over all the moving averages in quite a while, all right? S&P 500, exact same thing. Gap up, finally over the lines, the strongest over the lines. And then what I loved is finally the Dow Jones as well. This is the first day that all three indices are over all the moving averages. This is the most bullish moment we've had, I mean, honestly, since probably February. And I mean, I would almost even take it back to this January couple days, because even in February we start worrying about some losses. So really, since January of this year, this is the first time all three indices are over, and this really is the first nice day. We need tomorrow to confirm, but if that happens, most of, if not all, the normal tickers that we were trading not that long ago should be taking off again, right? So when the indices are good, when the NASDAQ, the Dow Jones, and the S&P 500 look the same, when they're all over all the moving averages, good things will happen, right? So we're loving this calm ocean. I think we can see it with the big candle that we got on BBAI. And really the goal is, let's see this exact same thing on a couple other tickers, right? So before we do go any further and I give you more of my thoughts and opinions, what are we going to do? Same thing we always do, right? We'll take a look at the daily and the weekly to see how these things are setting up short term. We have our five moving averages. There are horizontal support and resistance lines that I do draw manually myself. And then when we are done up here, we'll use the MACD, RSI, and volume as our lower indicators. Hey, really quickly, if you can, please subscribe to this channel. Share this video online with your friends. Comment good or bad if you disagree. Look, anything you can do helps so much with these YouTube algorithms, but for real, just being here, giving me your time, oh, I'm so grateful for it, all right? So it feels like not that long ago, I would start with SoundHound, give SoundHound most of the same chapter, time, and then end it with BBAI. Right now, it is the complete opposite, and I've been saying it for a while. The entire story is volume here, all right? In December, volume for BBAI was in the 60 million range, all right? And the flip side was SoundHound in December was at 200 million shares. all of a sudden, in today's realities, this is now actually below the 60 number I just mentioned. And BBAI actually today just surpassed the 200 by a lot. And really, the last, what? You can say the last 4 days pretty much, we're living in that same 200 million that I just mentioned, right? So literally, the volume has completely 180'd. What was SoundHound destroying and SoundHound being what 4x the volume, all of a sudden BBAI is 4x the actually maybe even more than 4x the volume, right? It's 6x. If you're going from 50 to basically from 5 to 30, that's 6x right there, right? So BBAI has easily become the focus. And again, when you can go from down here in the 50s to all the way up here in the 200s to even surpassing 300 million shares on a single day, oh yeah, all of a sudden you are a volume king, right? You're a volume queen for the ladies watching this. Volume brings good candles, and that's exactly what we saw here, right? The whole technical story really has been the 100 moving average. And I said this, I saw Think Tank Indie love it, and I'm going to say it again. We are here stalking a stock, right? Just like the lion hunting out in the jungle, right? It was trying, it was trying, it was trying, it was trying, it was trying. Believe me, I'm not here assuming it's gonna happen. I'm here stalking it, waiting for it, and attacking when it happens, right? And look, this was a decent money line, right? If you waited just for this, you actually would have caught most of the day, right? So you obviously could have played it a lot more aggressive once you saw it gap up. I actually even mentioned BBAI on yesterday's oil videos. I saw this. I liked the high of the day yesterday. Look in yesterday's candle. High of the day was 418. That was the exact to the penny close. Man, once it gapped up and went, oh, it just went, right? But even that 450 line was actually a beautiful line right there, right? What are we looking for next? Oh my goodness. Green, 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 red, red, red. Nothing, nothing, nothing. There is a lot to love over 550. If this thing breaks 552, don't be sad if you missed it because it looks like there's actually a really nice path almost to 10 right there, right? I like the MACD that's positive right now. I like that the RSI is only at 70. We're not even ringing the alarm bells at 80. We see the green over red divergence on both. And I think my favorite thing, I can even go this far back, that's beautiful volume growth. That's not some crazy like pump, and I can't find a good example. That's not like this where it just like pumps and then it's gonna dump right after. That is beautiful volume growth, and that to me means sustained candles, especially when we're liking the upper indicators right there with the MACD and the RSI, right? As I look at the weekly, exact same thoughts. We got green over red on both MACD and RSI. It's not even that high on RSI. Green, 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 red, red, red. A good path up seems realistic here, actually. So as long as this stays the volume juggernaut that it is, BBAI might be really hard to break. And hey, don't forget, this thing's actually got some military contracts, right? Like I remember, and I started the video with it. I remember, and I say this with love, I remember when this was a joke ticker. It was just like the number 4 ranked AI stock, right? I used to do Palantir, SoundHound, C3AI, then BBAI, right? And I remember even wondering if like Bullfrog or well, I forgot what the other one was, but like this was a sub tier one. All of a sudden, there are stocks that in I'm sure we can find it on the weekly. Look at this thing. On entire weeks of BBAI, it was well under 200 million shares, right? It was under the line, under the line. Entire week, 5 full days of trading, under 200 million shares. We got almost 300 million just today. That's a volume juggernaut right there, right? So, I mean, again, look, you see the lines up. I think this is incredibly bullish as long as it stays over 481, excuse me. Obviously, I have the line right there, right? So I'm going to keep that. I think that's an important line. But really, stay over 480, 475, something around there, right? And I think this is very, very bullish and should make its way on up, all right? Real quickly looking at SoundHound. So what we're now hoping for is that BBAI momentum comes to SoundHound, right? Today was the first good day over the 50-day line in arguably a while. right? We were expecting 30 million, right? You can see that the white line's basically on the line. We actually got almost 50 right there, right? That's actually a little bit more than a 50%, more than expected, right? So that's a nice significant, over the expected volume. The issue, like I said, is there's just too, the 20 by itself is a really hard moving average. The 100 by itself is a really, really hard moving average. The 200 by itself is the hardest of the five. All three of those together is not easy, right? So it makes sense that it got that high at one point, but it had to fail. But hey, we're seeing it, right? We're seeing the volume come. MACD is still negative, it's not positive, but I think there's reason to believe that, hey, maybe it's going to flip just like BBAI, and that's a much, much lower RSI, right? So a good path from 10 to basically 12 something on SoundHound if it could break that same 100 moving average that we just saw with BBAI, right? So again, I think there's a little bit of a chuckle in the back of my head that BBAI is more the focus and SoundHound is the follower. Literally, this was the leader and that was the follower, what feels like only a couple months ago, right? Even before that December timeline too, right? So that's what I think is the most important thing about technical analysis, just even beyond these, right? We're not here to fall in love with a ticker. I loved SoundHound a lot more than BBAI. However, the technicals very much are saying, I think it's time to shift that focus, right? And again, I'm never here to discourage, the longs and strongs and fundamentals and this and that, but I think that's at least a solid perspective on technical analysis in my eyes, right? So BBAI looks really good and should continue. This one's trying to mimic the escape that one's doing, right? Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your opinions, even if you disagree. Let's move into INTC. And look, I think this is a really good setup right here, okay? I think what I like about INTC, like I said in the beginning opening thoughts, NASDAQ. Excuse me, sorry, a little hiccup right there. NASDAQ is looking good. That's the two hiccups, excuse me. That's the first good moving average escape in quite a while. That's the first good gap up in quite a while. I mean, there's still a low RSI number. I mean, that looks really good. Even seeing S&P 500 looks solid. And actually, since it's Intel, I feel like Intel's been around so long, it's probably even worth looking at the Dow Jones. And with all of them looking that good, Intel INTC is starting to look good because what I am starting to see is the first good, let's not say the first, because there have been a couple of decent attempts. That was a good attempt, couldn't confirm. That was look, that's a doji over it, that doesn't count. That's a good candle for sure. That doesn't count, right? And and oh man, I'm surprised this one didn't take off. I am a little surprised. Maybe if it got over 50% candle, maybe that would have done something different, but I'm really surprised that didn't take off. Regardless, right? That's a good candle, no confirmation. None of those count. Good candle, no confirmation. It's been basically the entire year of trying to break that 200 moving average. And if it can, that's almost a 50% move from down here in the 22s to up there in the 30s right there, right? I don't think it's worth drawing. There's definitely a line right there at about 25. You can see a little bit of a plateau there, bottom of that thing. I think give or take, I can draw a better line, right? But again, I'm going to delete that, but keep that 25, 24.80 is what that line was at in your back pocket. But I think there's a real nice path from 22 to 30. Green, 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 red, 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 green, 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 red, 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 green, 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 red, 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 and just nothing for the last 3 months, right? So again, really nice MACD, really nice RSI. A 60 is a good low number, and volume, right? It's been decent. You can arguably say June has been really good volume. There's more green days than red days, right? It just hasn't gotten over that 50-day line. And I think that end combination of all five moving averages too tight, if we can get a good confirmation tomorrow, if this thing can escape, I think that's what's going to start bringing the good volume right here, right? What's this line? Sorry, let me click right here. I think this is our confirmation. If this thing can get into 23.08, 23.10 range, $23.10, oh, that's going to start looking. I'll draw the line real quick, right? If we can get here, we're into this one, green, 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 red, 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 green, 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 red, 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 just a lot of nothing, right? And from there, we would be basically, I think from there we would go to that 25 line that I just deleted, and then from there 30, right? So I think 23 is a real good money line. 23.10, give or take, is a real good money line for INTC right there. So cool. Let's look at the weekly really quickly. And look, you can see it. The weekly exactly echoes the same thing. Break the 50 moving average, you should go to the 100. 50 moving average is right about here, 100 moving average is right about there. I think that's a real nice alignment. There's some stuff going on here. That's 27-ish, not quite the 25, the very bottom. Yeah, maybe between, like I said, that's you can see why I'm not drawing it, right? But there's definitely something here just under 25. There's definitely something there just above 25. I just keep that in your back pocket, but hopefully we can make that move. And I mean, this is real nice, right? MACD is not quite positive yet, but there's a good green over red on both and a very low 40 here, right? So maybe next week, if the indices continue and go, oh, there could be some nice stuff happening here. So INTC, I think very much is worth it. Look, if it comes, that's too low. I think under 21. See, but no, it is really down here. I think under 21 is probably the yeah, I'm clicking at 21.10 right now. Basically, if you can just stay over the 8 moving average, I'll call it bullish. I don't really want to go from 22 down to 21, but really that's not that bad a drop. That's less than a 10% drop right there. So, um just stay over 21. I like INTC a lot. Again, break 23, and I think I've got 30 in the back of my head. All right. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your opinions, even if you disagree. Last one for the list is SOFI. And SOFI has very quietly made a beautiful little run here, right? So just like BBAI, and again, you can go back to the things, but literally those are almost always on the same video. We have been stalking this stock for a while now, all right? We've been looking for it to break the 100 moving average on the daily, that blue line right there. Tried to, and did, right? And once it did, that's just technical beauty right there, right? I think the why I say it's been doing it quietly. Number one, none of these look like really big candles. That's the biggest day right there, and it's a 6% day. What I see is a lack of breaking that 50-day line, right? So the fact that it's actually able to go from 13 something to 15 something without crazy volume actually does speak a lot of strength, because now I see the Nasdaq is looking strong with the gap up, testing my line right there. I see the S&P 500 is testing my line with the gap up. I see the Dow Jones is over all 5 moving averages and actually over the biggest candle to the left, which is that thing right there, right? I think that is going to make people a lot more comfortable to invest in the normal tickers we used to. SOFI is in that bucket, right? And I think that's going to start turning this 60 million back into, I mean, look, it's so sporadic. I think the one interesting thing here, like let's just go back to BBAI real quick. So BBAI has moments and has a lot more sustained moments over that white 50-day line. I'm not really seeing that with SOFI. SOFI basically lives there. And hey, just living there is actually really good. It is. But yeah, there aren't those like sustained days just over the line and over the line and over. Like that's probably the best one, right? That little thing right there back in 2023 is probably the you can even call it all of that little couple month window back in 2023. Otherwise, it's just a couple little pops. That's not even as thick as that right there, right? So volume hasn't been amazing and sustainably amazing, but with the 3 indices calming down with a lot of, look, let's be honest, the expectation of World War III dramatically dropped between yesterday and today, let alone between the last 48 and 72 hours from today, right? So I think the market really liked that. Just as humans, obviously, we like that. We don't want war, right? It's horrible. But yeah, there's a calmness in the ocean, and it feels less like the eye of the storm and more, I think the storm has passed. I think people have accepted this tariff world that we're in. There's been some reductions. We've been literally living in it for weeks or maybe even a month without any changes, right? This World War III fear is coming down a lot. I mean, there's reasons for the market to be happy, and I said it this morning on the Discord, and I'll end it with this. I saw a headline about Powell not doing a rate cut in July, even though Trump wants him to. Look, I don't care about that. It is very much okay if we do no cut in July, and then the end of the year we use the last calls to make the drop, right? There is still time for multiple rate cuts even if we do nothing in July. So overall there's way more good than bad in the air right now, and I think the market is appreciating that with those gap ups that we saw today. All right, let me know your thoughts, let me know your opinions, even if you disagree. Oh, I appreciate you so much.